Welcome to the Ecommerce podcast brought to you by Emotive. Here we have today Nishan Bose.
Right.
Like the headphones.
Like the headphones, not related to the headphones. Bose did not sponsor this. We got Zach Wise, and then I believe we have Mandar Shenade. I'm Kostas McDade, VP of Growth over at Emotive. Spent a better part of the last 10 years consulting for a wide variety of different B2B and B2C companies. Spent a better part of 300 mil or so in the last decade. And for me, I am really excited about today. We're about to jump into some, I would say, fairly thick material, but we're going to make it easy to understand.
So, hey guys, this is Nishan. I am a product manager here at Emotive, working on trying to solve the signal loss problem, which we will go into in a few minutes. So, I work on new measurement products that we are building and also focused on helping improve your revenue store performance.
It apparently has amazing coffee taste.
I'm Zach. I'm the co-founder, one of the co-founders here at Emotive. Focus mostly on product development, work with amazing people like Sean himself. But big focus for us this year is all this stuff we're talking about around signal loss. And lucky enough to have teamed up with Mandar, I think about a year or so ago now. It's been an awesome relationship and I'm excited for what's to come. But biggest problem in e-commerce that most people don't know about. And that's what we're here today to talk about.
I'm the product manager at Plotout, and turns out I'm also the founder and the CEO, which nobody in engineering loves. When the product managers can drive everything, it's a problem. But anyway, so that's what I do for a living. Backgrounds in media tech, ad tech, lots of patents in the advertising business, and e-commerce is new to me. So thank you for all of you gentlemen here who helped me understand it a little bit by bit. I think we all kind of contribute towards how we sort of move the ball forward. But yeah, looking forward to talk about signal loss. And I think the problem's genuinely beyond commerce, but I feel like commerce is a spend dollar, make a dollar business. And that's why the commerce guys tend to kind of wisen up to what I need to do to kind of start my.
Well, Mandar, hopefully it's a spend $1, make $4 business, ideally.
If you say so.
Because spend $1. Ooh, I don't know. That ROAS is not great.
You need a better machine than that, right?
When I say spend, it's more than just Facebook, but I get your point.
Yeah, right. No, I feel you. Well, all right, let's just open it up. We have the number one topic, the biggest problem in e-commerce that literally no one understands. And honestly, for me, this has been quite the road. I thought I was fairly technical. I was a front end dev at one point. I know basic JavaScript. I thought that tracking was pretty easy. And then, things have exploded 3 times. Like the Cambridge Analytica side, that was 2012, 2013. Wish we had a fact checker on Joe Rogan. And then we had another one 2014, 2015, iOS 14-ish around that time. I think maybe a little later. And then most recently, iOS 17. So it's just gradually gotten more difficult. And also cookies are going to go away soon. So it's really, I guess, if I had to say the biggest problem in commerce is how the heck do we get data where it needs to go? How do we track users anonymously, confidentially? But how does that affect things? So, I wanted to open it up. Anyone can answer. How would you probably paraphrase that better?
You know how they say that? Think about Google Maps, right? So Google Maps, now we cannot live with Google Maps. And Google Maps gives you directions. It really helps solve your problem. It gives you information about how long it takes to get from point A to point B. And it's your guide, right? It just works in the background. And imagine taking away Google Maps. How would you get from point A to point B? You will have to start opening up this complex map, try to figure out the different entry exit routes. That's kind of what's happening now with tracking and privacy changes. It's really taken us back into that hard copy map, and not everybody gets it, right? Because of how difficult it is and how quick you have to be being able to understand, okay, where is the exit, where is the entry, and being able to anticipate your next move. And that's kind of what has happened with the industry over the years, like what you were just describing, Costa. So I think, to simply put, all the founders, there's some great products out there, and people love products to buy them online and so on. Everybody wants a Google map to kind of grow their business, get from point A when they're starting.
Well, yeah. And then remember, it's like the old days where you had to print it out, you had to bring it, and you're trying to get the information while you're driving. Yeah. It's you got to process it, you got to make it easy. There's no simple way to do this. You're kind of reading things manually. And it becomes this really difficult thing where most teams don't either, number one, have the resources to build something like this internally, especially a commerce company, or number two, they don't have the ability to understand the signals they're supposed to actually collect, and actually they're supposed to then process and even identify users on their site. So I'm kind of curious, like for me, it was going from like a 4K TV to like a ham radio overnight. And I'm curious, like, so what positioning wise, I guess, how would you answer that, Mandar, too?
I think I take the problem a little bit sort of backwards, right? Which is more than how you solve for it, which is always the perpetual focus. I think you have to ask the question, how did we get here? And if you look at the beauty and the sadness of the topic, like the beautiful thing was, look, most of the marketers grew without ever having to learn how the internet works. 2 lines of JavaScript, hey, it works, like life is
I
great.
remember I taught like an email partner once, like what a link was, like href, like, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, and I'm like, wow.
No,
Like,
it used to be called that blue thing, by the way.
And it's supposed to be like that, Mandar, right? Like,
right.
technology should be easy. Like, it's here to serve you, not
But
the
that's
other way
fine, that's
around,
fine.
right?
The problem is disruption happens, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the Oppenheimer problem where you don't know until you do it, and then you're like, we did it, now there's a problem. This is the inverse proportionate kind of the problem where you're saying, look, we grew a whole generation of marketers who know a tool. And that tool essentially does all the work, and they get married to the tool instead of saying, hey, do I even understand what the tool does? And now when the tool gets disrupted, we see some really crazy answers like, that's how I've done it. Like, we had a saying at AOL, and I was telling Zach, back in the day,
Cool.
I was in the agency business, and people would say, like, hey, look, when would Saatchi change? Like, because I came at the birth of mobile, like, which a lot of people don't even probably remember. And people are going to buy mobile ads. Are you crazy? Like, today, that's not a debate. Today is like, the mobile ads don't work. What the heck is going on? Right. And so these are generational changes that just naturally happen. But the question is, you put yourself, I always call it the layer of the onions, like, peel off. And if you understood what is wrong with the third layer, you may actually understand the deltas, right? Because the 4K is still there, right? You just required so many glasses now to kind of see the 4K.
Right.
And
So
so
it's kind
that
of yeah.
exactly. And so to me, it's the educational issue, not so much the
Yeah.
hey, how do I just run fast, right? And the problem is we're taking what? Like when we started our careers, digital marketing was peanuts, like peanuts. Now it's like what, a million X?
And it's going to keep growing. Like, if you look at Shopify growth and the projections that they have had, like, you will see the amount of merchants that have been adding quarter over quarter, year over year. It's just up and to the right. And it is becoming more possible and more easier, right?
I think the biggest thing is that if we really fundamentally think, first off, this is like a reversion in technology. Usually before, when you jumped on the internet, like you had to do some crazy stuff to get on the internet. Then they obviously made dial up easier. Then it got easier. You don't have to write code. You just log into Internet Explorer browser. It just keeps getting better and better. That's what technology is supposed to do. And then I would say the tracking concept, like all the tools we've had to track, to allow for businesses, like all the brands we work with, to be successful online, all that technology has, all the tracking technologies made them successful. It's made this whole Shopify thing work. And all of a sudden you start to pull that out, and overnight we hear our brands 2-3 years ago saying my ad spend is like 60% less effective. So it's like almost like this is a model changing shift first and foremost, and having to go back in time and like reestablish the technology, which has never happened. I don't know a time that's ever happened where like we've gone back in time. Imagine if you taught a new user like of an iPhone to say, hey, I want you to start using like Nokia brick. Like that just would be insane.
Hey, don't talk negatively about the Nokia bricks, just to date myself. Those are awesome.
Yeah,
And
they're great.
P9,
They're great phones.
P9 texting, you could text in your pocket. Shout out to one of my favorite movies for anyone that knows that reference.
That's the biggest thing, though. It's more importantly, it's like what made e-commerce work before, right? And now fundamentally, that's kind of gone.
And I think the biggest issue too is that you have marketers, again, smart folks. I was kidding earlier, but the biggest thing is that, like, as I am a marketer, so I hope we're smart. But the biggest thing is, like, if you're thinking about this, hey, I was running these ads, I had these campaigns, I was flighting everything net new every like 2 weeks. I ran a bunch of new channels. I had okay results with TikTok. Let's say I was scaling this for the last 2 or 3 years. I've created this 10 to maybe $50 million kind of GMV business. It's going well. Then all of a sudden, on a random Tuesday, your ad ROAS effectively and MER just decide to implode. And you're like, I didn't really change anything. You're like, what happened? And that's honestly the most fun and scariest part about being a marketer, is that constantly things are changing that you don't really understand. And like being able to combat that, especially when it's already hard enough from a targeting perspective to find the right audience, which honestly creative is more important now. It's also from a creative standpoint, hard enough to stand that up. From an operational standpoint, let's say you're in fast fashion, to be able to shoot those products, produce the copy, all the other things outside of the thing that probably might drive one of the most significant parts of your revenue, which is effectively your tracking on your site. These are already really hard things to stand up. Brief, you have multiple partners to manage. So when things kind of drop out, it's not just catastrophic, but it's a lot of acid reflux in our marketing community. So I'm kind of curious. I think this most recently, there's been a lot of volatility, specifically with paid social, Facebook, primarily, even TikTok and more. I think, Mandar, you put a couple posts about this. I'm curious, like in your mind's eye, you're able to see a lot of anonymized traffic data and kind of just generalized results. I guess what prompted you to put that post? And how did you conclude that? It was like kind of like a poll of sorts. I think it was in the private community.
So every now and then we have a lot of personal relationships with merchants who our entire philosophy on servicing has been, look, we have to kind of look at the totality of the problem, not just like if we give you an API, life is great. And so a lot of merchants will come and say, hey guys, are you seeing issues across the board, right? Because we are now at a place where you're running billions and billions of these pixels. So you can actually say, look, here are the categories that are impacted, blah, blah, blah. But that was the first time around, I would say last week of September, where a whole bunch of merchants came and saying, hey guys, we're bleeding. What's going on? Right? Because their immediate instinct is, look, tracking broke. Right. And so we kind of got to work for 48 straight hours saying, guys, okay, let's go under the hood because stuff has happened. Like last midweek, Shopify threw us on a curveball, right? Like, and Zach was with me when that was happening. But those are issues we cannot control. Same with Meta. If Meta goes down, hey, what are you going to do? But the reality of it is, for the marketer, we are that source of truth to say, have you seen this across the board? And so we had heard from enough guys to know it was happening. And we know enough people at Meta to be able to tell you that there is a macro change happening. It's not just about signals and categories where we are clearly seeing a consumer sentiment with all the interest rates and all of the prices kind of constantly going up, people not willing to go back to job. Like there's pressure there. We genuinely felt like Meta was doing some testing on some of the merchants to be able to say, pre-Black Friday, we need to kind of get these things out because I believe they are in a code freeze this weekend. Right? And so I can't tell you exactly what, but when we hear that, we go put a poll out because look, our data is still only 500 merchants. We know people in the largest ethosphere to say, if I did a poll on 2,000 merchants and 80% are hurting, the problem's not with any of us, the problem's on the other side. And maybe the problem's genuinely macro.
Yeah.
Right? All of those things need to be kept into account because if we all tank like on the con side, like no amount of signals are going to break you out of that, right? Like that jail is just a recession jail that we all kind of participate in.
So I did want to call this out to really understand like what impact the privacy changes, the cookie polyps, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, cookies are coming to an end, third-party cookies are dying, and so on, right? So what I'm trying to get to is that it's key to understand how does marketing work. Like, so there's top of funnel marketing, there is middle of funnel and bottom of funnel. If you stop sending signals or there's a drop in information for these different systems in place, the performance of those systems will start to drop, right?
So like your theory is like, hey, there's a drop in potential signal loss and all that stuff over, especially with the cookie apocalypse is coming, right? And I feel, so what you just mentioned, Nishan, it's really important to like understand that as less data comes in over time, the systems will become degraded, right? Like
Exactly.
There's going to be a trend that we have to navigate as like an entire group of marketers and e-commerce founders and whomever persona wise, like everyone's going to be affected the same way. And Mandar, like what you mentioned, like on top of that, like there's obviously the recession jail that we're going to be in that is massive macro tidal forces that we can't control for. So one thing that we should consider is, well, what's in our control, right? And what can we build quickly, easily? what from a marketing perspective can we spend our time on to give the best impact so that we can focus on the infinite amount of other hard things that we have to do as marketers and like effectively run campaigns, be creatives, be CDs, be media buyers, be statisticians, and on top of it, how do we manage all of that too? So,
Yeah, I think Nishan raised a good point. What does a post-cookie era look like, and why does it matter? Why are we even talking about this, right? And this is what I meant by, look, these cookies allowed a lot of data to be moved between places that the user was never really aware of. That's one. Two, so there are two kinds of cookies, right? Let's start there because we're talking about topics that a lot of people are like, which cookie are you talking about, right? And FYI, like a lot of these cookies actually stayed on your browser. So browser actually provided storage for all the good reasons, and then of course the bad reasons came, right? And then a lot of people benefited, so everybody ignored the bad reasons. Welcome to humanity. So as time came, like there's a third party cookie, right? So Facebook never asked you to write a CAPI. Why? Because every time Nishan purchased, the idea is to say, look, I already know Nishan's buying coffee. I already know who Nishan is, right? And so all I needed to know what Nishan did on rei.com or Horton's Coffee. And that's what the pixel did. So that's part one. So there's a first party element to it, which is what did Nishan do on the site, rei.com, whether that's considered first party to rei.com, because Nishan trusts rei.com. And then the other part of it is the identity to say, okay, Nishan actually didn't buy those Hoka shoes. But the idea is like, hey, look, I need to go remarket to Nishan on Facebook because Nishan is just hanging out on Facebook 24/7. I'm kidding. But you get the idea, right? And so the goal is to say there was a natural benefit between the parties to say, I'm going to give you the data because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to sell that shoe to Nishan, right? So these cloud companies who were collecting this data for free became large beneficiaries. I'll give you a simple example, right? I've never been on Facebook. And I can bet you 110% that Facebook was monetizing my data. You know why? Because they didn't even need me to sign on Facebook to be able to remarket the Hoka shoes back in the day. Yeah. So that's how we kind of got here. Now, because of COVID, third-party cookies went away. That's when the invention called CAPI came, right? But you only needed to send the conversion because they could still tell like who Nishan was, right? Like if you could tell the conversion, then they'd say, I'd keep remarketing on this pixel because Facebook Click ID was kind of going through the pixel. You could do that. This is for Meta. Then Apple came and said, well, hang on, I'm going to cut the pixel down to 7 days. That's your first party. And so suddenly now you couldn't track Nishan more than 7 days. But in general, what happened is that destroyed not just top of the funnel marketing, like we just discussed, it also completely destroyed loyalty, right? So when Nishan, who is already signed up with Aria and spends billions of dollars with Aria.com, suddenly can't be remarketed to buy Aria.com.
That was what I was going to say before, is that marketers will commonly associate the problem with their ad spend. It's just the most noticeable, right? And I think Kostas posted about like marketers will founders spend like Lamborghinis a month to Facebook, right? Like when that Lamborghini goes 60% slower the next day, you notice. So that's kind of the bottom line. Everyone talks about in the ad world, but it's so much more impactful than just ads, right? It's so much more impactful. It screws up your ability to retarget in the bottom of the funnel via email and SMS. It screws up your ability to truly track users when you're actually trying to attribute revenue to a specific channel. There's so many different places. And I feel like we're just getting started with really truly understanding like all the different areas that this has been impactful. But first, the ad layer is just the most painful for sure.
Yeah, it's the one you observe more than is the most painful, right? Like it starts there and kind of gets into measurement pretty quickly to say, I'm like blind at this thing, but I have no idea how to kind of intersect between all of these platforms anymore because I have no idea what's going on. And that is still true with view attribution, right? Something Nishan and I talk a lot about, which is other than Facebook, nobody can tell if they saw an ad on Facebook. And so you have to model that out to say, okay, what is a good way to kind of overlay that data back to the buyer?
People are looking for like alternatives constantly. Right? If something doesn't work, you're like, okay, I'm going to use another metric to figure out how to make it work. So that's why we have introduced new concepts like MER, cost per email sign up and things like that to look for alternative solutions where it's easier on the top of the funnel to really understand how's the business doing, right? But I think if we understand a little bit deeper, like, peeling the layers of the onion. It can truly be the one thing that changes the trajectory of your business one way or the other, right? Like either you learn so much that, okay, either you start spending less or you start spending more. Ideally, you're spending more because you have now more understanding of everything, right? Not just one piece of the puzzle, which is if I spend on Facebook, it's going to impact me in X, Y, or Z form. But you want to give it the best shot possible to first understand the problem and then work on solving it. Because if then that's where you try to understand what's coming down the road. Because I think where we are today, it's just the beginning. It's like an iceberg problem right now. E-commerce has been growing less than a decade now. And it feels like forever, but it's only going to get more complex and it's only going to get more crowded in the space. So it's not about just now, but what's coming down the road, which is what I think we should really start to think about as a community, as a group.
So I do want to focus on that, meaning the future is cookieless. There's no doubt. So in the short term, especially what you mentioned a couple of times, Nishan and Mandar, like you have this opportunity where the current users effectively, or the media buyers or the founders or the marketing directors, are spending a lot of ad dollars on obviously primarily Meta today. The biggest thing that they could do today is potentially what to remedy some of this stuff. I mean, there's going to be obviously in the following episodes, we're going to be talking about ad creative, teardowns of specific funnels, and more. But ultimately speaking, would you agree if your data isn't like squared away as best it possibly can, do those things still matter? That's an open question for anybody. Will you get enough, effectively? Is it a good enough result just to have everything else running well and not have your data like perfect? Or would you want to make sure you double back and make sure that, hey, my tracking's set up properly? Would you believe that that's more important or less important than all these other levers?
To me, it's like, again, I'm blowing my own trumpet. This is geeky bias because some of us did work on DSPs and ad servers in the past. And there is a saying, right? The person who is shopping or window shopping in your store is more important than the foot traffic outside the store, right? And I think there is this bias built in because look, in the last 15 years, the layers of the onion have been invisible. People can't tell what's in the store and outside the store because you just get a ROAS report. If I ask people, I don't think so people will be able to explain ROAS to me. Again, I'm a geek. For what it's worth, I'll ask questions that most people won't know. And so the goal is here to say, look, if there is a visitor on your site and you're not optimizing for it, right? Or you're not essentially sending their signals back, all of the growth channels are betting on you to send that first party data back, which was true 10 years back, true today. Fundamentally can't optimize for your funnel either, right? I mean, the desperation level has gotten to a point where I believe 97, 98, and that's how large the market is, guys. We talk about e-commerce here, but 97%, I believe, have not yet optimized for true first party lifetime sort of scenarios. I would say 85% are yet to build a CAPI.
And that means they can't track past 7 days, right?
That is correct. And the question is, when people talk to us, they're like expecting magically sales to just double. And I'm like, there's no magic in the business, guys. But if you don't tell your channels where you're spending bulk of your money, what's actually happening on your site, you're fundamentally screwed. And look, like, we did a video, I think I shared it with Zach and Nishan. The channels are doing a pretty decent job giving some data back now to say, look, here's what we are seeing. If every channel starts to give data back, for you guys, that's awesome because you can start building real true attribution product across channels where they're saying what's actually going on with traffic. Because the reality of it is the world, the way we have built it, you're going to send more data to Facebook than Facebook's ever going to send back to you. Just reality, accept it. We built it. We live in the valley. So from that perspective, you're not going to get anything back from Facebook. You're going to have to keep sending data back. And that's just the reality you live in. So if you don't, you don't die. But if you're spending $50 million and you won't spend like 100K to get that done, I don't understand the logic. That's just me.
I do think that like the one thing I will give credit to the D2C community about, the marketers, they're very adaptable. So when one thing breaks, they move to the next lever, right? I think we saw that happen in 2021. Brands immediately started saying targeting is dead and it's all about creative. And I think that's still the narrative. I think that's still going to stay true. But, and this is kind of the unbiased view here, why wouldn't you give your tracking and your targeting the best chance possible, right? It's a thing that you do in your sleep. Creative, you have to actively engage with. You have to constantly engage your marketing. You have to constantly work with your team on tracking and just audience building is something that you just do in your sleep. That's why the machine for e-commerce works so well. It's like a slot machine. You put your dollar in, and Kostas, to your point, hopefully the other 4 pins out, like the jackpot that it used to be. Ideally, you get some of that effect with some of these fixes along the way.
Yeah, it's like using Shopify. So you set it and forget it. You upload a product to Shopify. It's like it's doing the job for you. It's getting you through the payment. Like Shopify does the payment processing for you, and it just people are buying at 2 a.m. or at 1 a.m. or at like 2 p.m. Like it's just sitting there doing the thing. It's a foundation of any store. Like as we should really think about as a parallel, like, okay, Shopify gives you a place to host your products, right? It's your foundation. That's similarly like Facebook, the platform helps you host your creatives to reach out to people. It's like a broadcasting tool. Then you have like the technology, the infrastructure, both the systems much more effective. And on top of that, like make your email and SMS programs that much more effective. So your CACs start to go down because it's a problem of not just getting to the customers, but like how you convert them. Convert them not tomorrow, convert them like as many times as quickly as possible, because we all know, like, a buyer's journey is not the one which is straight. Like they're going through so many different steps. They're asking their friends, they're looking online, they are being spoken to by so many. The online world is like you're in a mall. You have all these things in front of you. So the brands, so merchants with the advantage of understanding this signal loss problem can improve not just their top of funnel but middle and the bottom of funnel. Like that's how we are thinking about it.
It's probably more than just a mall. It's like a mall and everyone has like an amp and a megaphone just screaming at you all the time. And you literally, I mean, effectively, again, not all eyeballs are created equal. Like that's the bottom line. This is why this matters, because effectively, if the algo is getting poor data at some level, you're not going to programmatically get in front of the right people at the right time with the right message. And so ultimately speaking, it seems like it's tangementally important, but not everything is doom and gloom. This is the reality of a podcast sponsored by a company. We do have a solution. And everyone that's listening to remember, we have actually put a lot of work and effort in the last year, Mandar, much more in the last years, plural, to try and remedy this solution. But the short-term fixes are, okay, so what? So what the heck do we do about this problem? Is it easy to implement? Can we fix it? Effectively, a marketing kind of monkey like me who doesn't really understand the tech side, can I do this thing and plug and play it, and then it will make sure that I have the right things kind of set up so I don't have to necessarily keep maintaining it? Like, I do want to highlight that, again, we have created some solutions to do this. Now, the next question is, well, why does the Emotive Pixel matter? And especially as it's brought to us by Blotout, why does this matter? And what is the solution that we're talking about today? I'd like to get 3 takes from each of you, actually.
So I think for us, the way we look at the philosophy of how data works is, I'll go back to the example of Nishan going back to REI or Horton's Coffee, right? That's a trusted relationship between Nishan and the brand. So fundamentally, the brand should have the full opportunity to be able to say, I need to be able to serve my customer, right? And then the second dimension of the problem is laws, right? That say, hey, but you have to protect Nishan's data. And so we essentially call it consent, the GPC consent. But the third dimension, which is the most important dimension, which formulates 1 and 2, is called a trusted relationship. If Nishan finds out that their data was misused, at that point of time, they stop trusting REI and Hortons. And today that is not very transparent, but with the way Apple's making changes, some of that transparency is starting to show up, right? Like by the virtue of you having to track your user, which is really the only way signal loss can be resolved. But more importantly, you take on the responsibility of making sure you're sharing it based on Nishan's being okay with it, right? And so we call it the trusted relationship. We feel like, in fact, unlike what people think, where performance and privacy are contrary, we actually think they are synchronous in the next decade.
Makes sense. Mandar, what would you describe Blotout / Emotive Pixel as, like in a quick summary statement? Like, what does it do?
Normally, we call it the solution for how you sort of manage data post-cookie world while keeping privacy and compliance in the rearview mirror at all times because they are coming faster. Like we all keep worrying about what Apple's gonna do next. I'm like, okay, what is the next law California is passing? Because a lot of people probably are not aware of what's happening there as well. It's way past Europe at this point of time. And then for marketers, we normally call it the hey, market it's like it's 2019, right? Stop talking about iOS, ad blocker, just market like it's 2019, but while keeping privacy and compliance in the rear mirror at all points of time.
So basically, it's like market like it's 2019 again, and effectively in an automated, compliant, and trust first kind of way.
That's correct. And that's how we built the solution working with you guys. The advertisers in full control of their identity stack and decide to share data with all of us. We have now an app like you guys do called Velocity. Same deal, right? If the advertiser chooses not to install it, they don't have to share any data with Blada.
Mandar makes some really good points. Like there's two ways to look at it. Like there's the technology. That's where it all starts, right? You talk about that so well. But then it's the pain to what it is to the brand, to the marketer. And 100%, it's a performance problem, right? At the end of the day, we're all trying to solve here. Ultimately, just to like simplify it, the challenge again, I don't think we're ever going back to like what it was pre-iOS. The world has fundamentally changed. Privacy is only going to get stricter. Governments are only going to get more intense about third-party information and data. And so ultimately, we need a solution that kind of goes with that ethos of like first party, your brand owns the data itself. That's kind of what I believe the Pixel is trying to accomplish is give you complete control. The big problem that we had in 2021 is that we all lost control. And that doesn't feel good, especially as a founder of a company. I don't like losing control over the performance of my company. I'm sure for a lot of D2C brands, we hear this, like that's kind of what this was. This is a fundamental change in your lack of control. And so with the Pixel, we're trying to give you control, give control back to the brand so that they can federate their data. I think the next kind of generation of businesses are going to be the best businesses are going to be the ones who know how to use their data the best. And that starts off by capturing the data that they have access to. Right now, to simplify the problem, you're only capturing 7 days worth of data from your website. After that, you don't know who the person is when they come back to your site. And that's a huge, huge problem because that means we can't really do anything to that customer post the 7 days in a very personalized way, which we all believe personalization is the key to a successful marketing program. So what is the Pixel accomplishing? It's accomplishing the ability for you to own your data, for you to sleep at night, right? Knowing that, hey, I'm not just going to get shut off anymore. Again, it's not going to go back to what it was, but at least you know now, like, okay, this is my baseline. This is what I have. And of course, like we're working on solutions with the Blood Out team to only make that better and stronger over time. That's why we exist, right?
Great. Nishan, why does the
Alright.
Pixel matter?
I would like to think of it as a friend who works for you and helps you, like guides you, but you don't have to speak to that friend like at all times. That's how we are thinking about like building.
Your BFF that's always there, has always
Yeah.
got your back, kind of.
Always got your back. As a product manager, what I'm thinking and how I'm kind of not just thinking about it today, but for the future, as for a merchant, it's all about how seamless or how frictionless a product can be or a technology can be to assist you to be just better or that much better. And that's how Shopify is able to do the things that it's able to do is like just make it easy. That's how Klaviyo does it too, like just make it easy. So when you think about like the Pixel in the simplest terms, it's literally a piece of code that sits on your Shopify site or any site, like it could be a custom site. And we allow that piece of code to communicate with all your key marketing channels, whether it is Facebook, TikTok, email, SMS, whatever that platform is. And really, it's on you to then build from there on like leveraging the data it's sending. Like it'll just do the work for you. Now it's all about like how you build those flows, make it much more effective, how you really go crazy with like your creative testing because now you're getting higher quality data back. And there are two camps of people, like one that will question like, oh, is this working or not working? And I think it's all about looking at the results, right? Because you turn it on, And within a short period of time, you can actually see the results. Okay, so another thing I've noticed recently is that you're always looking for the perfect solution, the unicorn. The unicorn doesn't exist. There is no magic in this game. The magic is staying ahead of everybody else, staying ahead of the games, quote unquote, the games that are going on with like Apple, Google, and the policymakers. So it's about how much ahead you can be of them to be the loudest speaker, the loudest in that mall to really grow your business. So again, it takes what, maybe 10 minutes to get set up and going. And then it's all about optimization from that point on.
I think the main message, marketers have too much to worry about. Make
Yep.
this one less thing, right?
Yeah. Probably one of the most important things they shouldn't have to worry about. And for me, what I'm gathering from everyone here is that effectively we as a group, with significant help from Blotout, and again, have made an easy way to track users compliantly so that they can market like it's 2019 again, so they don't have to worry about all those data, so that you can focus on the creative, the product, the messaging, and more. That way you get control over your campaigns and you can create scalable and replicable results again. And the other part is that, like, one thing that it actions with, Emotive is at its core an SMS company. We have a lot of different software suites and solutions, I would say, for different types of marketers. Ultimately speaking, like, one functional way that translates is that you'll just simply be able to send more abandoned carts. Simply put, on top of all the other benefits, like getting more data to programmatic providers for top of funnel and more, your bottom of the funnel campaigns will simply just be the most efficient they've ever seen. You're going to get in front of folks that were potentially not seeing your campaign simply because they were not effectively getting that data back to where it needed to be. So sending more SMS when it comes to abandoned carts specifically will always translate into more sales. It's one of the highest converting parts of your funnel at any given point. The last thing I'd say is, Mandar, one thing that you think you're excited about in ad tech today, is there anything specifically that you want to wrap up with that can kind of spark some hope for the future for marketers everywhere? Do you feel like where things are getting better? Anything that's hopeful on your side?
I think it's the evolutionary aspect of basically the internet coming a full circle, right? Like in 1998, when we used to build servers, right? And then suddenly JavaScript came and said, you don't need to build servers. You can just drop something across domains. And then came the third-party cookie, and then like, you get the idea, right? Like Origin became GA, and there was this new brand of analytics, and people said, I wanted more data. You get the idea. I think we are just inverting it back, right? If we had lived in that world where people were building their own servers, I don't see, we could have still had a lot of benefits, but not all of the curses that we have today. But I don't know if we had grown that fast, because we would have had to educate a whole bunch of industry along the way, which we didn't have to in the last 15 years. So I think we are just getting to what we call as standard anchoring, which is some of us will just need to kind of paddle back enough to kind of catch up those things. But the good news is, look, Facebook's making a ton of progress helping out. Like, TikTok's making a ton of progress helping out. You guys are starting to educate through your systems to say, look, there's this massive issue that you can get a basic lift like of 20% by just doing these basic things. So as education pervades, right? And at least in, like Zach said, in e-commerce, people want to listen to it. You can make progress, right? I worry about the B2B industry and the other side, like on the lead gen, where people have no idea what the heck is going on, and the HubSpots of the world just keep covering. Like, they don't even build a proper API, like, to do things. And so I feel like this side, at least we're blessed, but there's a long, long way to go. But look, the ecom guys will educate everybody else along the way.
Love it. Thanks, Mandar.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Mandar, thanks for joining.
And you guys, what would you say is the number one thing you're excited about from this product?
In my mind, there are like two exciting pieces to how the ad tech industry is evolving. So both Meta and TikTok and even Snapchat, because all these different companies, they are really acutely aware of the challenges. So they are trying their best to help with broader audiences, making sure that things work as well, as good as possible for the users of their platform. Those are the merchants, and building out new ways to try out different formats, different ways to market to folks, whether it's building a shop in Meta or really kind of helping enhance the data that they are already getting. So that's one piece which is really exciting, at least from my standpoint. And the other piece with the technology, imagine that all these platforms are doing what they can with what they have. If you can enhance it even further, like it can go so much further than just like what they're doing. So it's like buy one get one free type of deal, really. Like the ad tech industry is evolving, and now your store is able to also evolve and stand on the shoulders of giants to be that much more effective when you're talking to your prospective or your existing customers.
Cool.
Look, for me, I'll reiterate, I said this before. I think as any founder builds their business, they want as much control over the outcomes and the performance of the business at any given time. So this product is really what that is. It's a control mechanism. And so ideally, because it's your data, you own your data, that's not going anywhere. You're going to have access to that. Sure, the rules of engagement will change. Apple will make more updates to iOS. They're making one every quarter, it seems like, at this point. Google will also change. Governments will change. But your data is your data. That's not going anywhere. It's a question of the evolving technology to get that data and then make better sense of it. That's something that obviously Emotive serves to exist, and then also blot out as well. But beyond that, from a macro, what I'm actually more excited for e-commerce in general, and this is kind of the biggest thing for me, most e-commerce companies are not profitable. And that to me is, and you see all the companies that go public from D2, they don't necessarily have the best results in the public market, which begs the question of like, how sustainable is the e-commerce direct consumer business model as a whole? And I think part of this is just a fact that like the last, 10 years with the whole Facebook model where the data was just free flowing and it was super easy to measure, get intent from different audiences and sell, that when we pull that out of the equation, it really begs the question of how sustainable can these businesses be? Now, what I'm excited for is the next generation of e-commerce brands are living in this post-iOS world. And they're going to be the brands who adjust, right? Who use Pixel, who start jumping in and building out more creatives, do more testing, et cetera, more data-driven. And those will be the ones that will prevail. They'll build full funnel lifecycle marketing programs. They'll actually build out the entire funnel in a personalized way rather than just kind of the one-to-many, which is what everyone's used to. They used to work. And those businesses actually have a shot of building very profitable, sustainable companies. And so I think it's making the e-commerce founders and marketers think a little harder and work a little harder to be successful. And especially in a macro that's so challenging, a lot of other e-commerce businesses that don't adapt will probably not make it. And that to me, I think is a good reset. It's a healthy reset for our market. I'm actually pretty excited for that. And so, those are the companies we want to work with. We want to help those companies move into the next era of e-commerce. And kind of as we exit this old era, pre-iOS, right?
Makes sense. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks, Nishan. Thanks, Sax. Thanks, Mandar. Appreciate you all hopping on. And for the next few episodes, we'll be posting these once or twice a month with a wide variety of different topics that dig into e-commerce funnels. We'll be doing funnel teardowns. We'll be doing different formats. We'll call it a tofu, mofu, bofu series because as marketers, we like acronyms. And at the same time, we'll also be diving into other topics that are more macro, similarly with what we did today, tracking, technical complexities, and more. But do leave a post in the comments if you're on YouTube. Let us know if there's any other questions. Feel free to email us at info@emotive.io and let us know what you thought today about the episode. And if you do join our Slack channel, which will be emotive.io/Slack, we will be posting in every description. Please join. You will get a free t-shirt and or hat, TBD. I have to get that approved by finance, but thanks, Zach. I hope we can do that.
It's been approved.
Perfect. But yeah,
They also get one.
It's all good. It's being paid for by our Adidas sponsorship.
Yeah, apparently Bose. Yeah, talk about a lot of big brands today. But I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. Be sure to join our Slack channel for other updates. And let's see if we can survive this cookie apocalypse. Let's make sure that we, as a group, can pivot and evolve and also market like it's 2019 again, because I'll tell you, I could use some of that for some of my clients. All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.